Senator Thom Tillis sits on the Judiciary Committee and joins us now. Senator, good morning to you. This is a
morning, Sandra.
Critical moment in this process. Where do you stand on calling witnesses in the Senate trial?
Well, I tend to agree with Ted. I think Ted also agrees that even walking down the slippery slope of calling witnesses is something we would like to avoid. We're going to go in and we're going to hear the testimony from the House managers. We're going to hear from the White House counsel. I believe that we'll hear enough in those arguments to probably lead the majority of us to the conclusion that we don't need to hear other witnesses. But if we get to that point, Ted's absolutely right.
Nancy Pelosi floated the idea yesterday that McConnell could move to dismiss the trial altogether. Is that still a possibility?
Well, Nancy needs to read the resolution that we tried to get her to agree to before she held the articles that they had to rush to produce for 30 days. The resolution that we're going to pass next Tuesday clearly says that we're going to hear from both sides, and then the first resolution guaranteed by the organizing resolution is whether or not we should hear witnesses. So this is just another example of Pelosi going down the political path that I believe this entire impeachment investigation has been all about.
Well, going back to the idea of witness reciprocity, if indeed Democrats do call John Bolton up, and then Republicans would clearly want to counter, who would be on the GOP witness list, Senator?
Well, if you take a look at, Sandra, there are two articles of impeachment. The second one I think we can dismiss. The obstruction of Congress was the president doing nothing more than asserting privilege. So let's go back to the first one. To the extent that that is based on the transcript and a discussion about an American national doing something in Ukraine that's questionable, that certainly gets Hunter Biden to come up to the top of the list, and possibly Vice President Biden shortly after that. That's the sort of thing that we're talking about if they really want to go down this path and do the work that they should have done when they were doing the investigation in the House.
As far as what this all looks like, and as far as what we are about to see from the Senate in all of this, Republican Congressman Doug Collins just was talking to Bill top of the hour here, and he suggested that there's a lot that senators haven't been following along, a lot they haven't even seen in the process yet, that they're going to see for the first time in the Senate trial. Here's Doug Collins first. I'll get your reaction.
Most senators, and I've had actually a chance to talk to Senate staffs and others, have not followed it as closely as, of course, we've lived it in the House. So I think when they start seeing how bad this case is, when they start seeing how weak these articles of impeachment are, and how they have been driven by simply a motivation to enfranchise this president and to take him down, I think they're going to have an interesting perspective and a point of view, and I think that'll even affect how they deal their trial.
What about that?
I think Congressman Collins is right on point. That's why I think it's important. We're going to hear testimony for over a week from the House managers. I believe that that's going to undermine their case and their credibility. So he's absolutely right. We're going to be in the chamber for 6 to 7 hours a day, 6 days a week. We're going to get up to speed on the investigation. We're going to hear what they consider to be evidence they're putting forward. I believe at the end of that, there's a very high likelihood that the majority of the Republican members are going to say, we've heard enough, now it's time to vote on the articles.
In a perfect scenario, Senator, I would be getting your reaction to Nancy Pelosi's naming of those impeachment managers. That hasn't happened yet. We expect that to happen at the top of the hour. How important is that, and what will you be watching for?
Well, I suspect she's going to draw from the same base of people who went through the investigation. I think that their real task is to make something, maybe a silk purse out of a silk purse out of a sow's ear. They've got a bad case to argue. What they're going to have to remain is within the lines of articles of impeachment, the evidence that they use to draw up the articles. I think they've got a tall order. And now this is the first time since all of this started that the White House counsel has an opportunity to question the validity of it. I think it's going to be very informative to the American people back home in North Carolina. And I think most of those people, incidentally, are over impeachment. They want us to get back to work on doing things that farmers and businesses and things that benefit folks back home, not this impeachment process. The voters are going to have an opportunity to vote on the president in November. I think they should set their sights on that, and we should get past impeachment as quickly as possible.
So many are, I hear you saying that, Senator, and so many are trying to predict what this looks like as far as a time frame, considering here we are in 2020, the election year. Some have made the case that this has hurt Democrats, Nancy Pelosi holding on to these articles, the delay and such. What do you expect as far as timing, and do you think that's been the case? Has this hurt her party?
Well, Sandra, I think so. We've seen it in the polls. They're losing support for this process virtually every week that they held it after they said there was a rush. they started losing the confidence of a broad base of voters, not just Republican voters. Unaffiliated and Democrat voters are saying, look, we're about to get to the point where maybe it makes more sense to let us decide in November about this, and it makes more sense for you all to stop this, get USMCA passed, start working on things for veterans, for service families, for our military. Those are things that mean things to people in North Carolina. And I do believe that each week that passes by, it becomes less popular. People are going, what are they doing in Washington?
But still, there's a big obstacle for Republicans. Final thoughts when it comes to those witnesses. The Hill with the piece this morning, Republicans face internal brawl over impeachment witnesses. John Thune is predicting a messy process when it comes to that. What is the biggest obstacle for your party as this process rolls on this morning? Senator, final thoughts.
Well, you know, the people on Capitol Hill think we're divided. We are 53 members prepared to do the organizing resolution, prepared to hear the facts, and then make decisions after that. We're actually having a process here that's coherent, makes sense, and thoughtful, very much different from what the House went through to produce these articles.
All right, Senator Thom Tillis, really appreciate your time this morning. Ahead of all of that, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
You're watching from here in the